Hi, and welcome back to A Heart for Home Education. My name is America, mother to three, homeschooling in a classical Charlotte Mason way. Today I'm going to be talking about the next phase in planning my Charlotte Mason curriculum for next year. And I also have a little bit of a haul for you. So today I want to talk about the next phase in my planning for next year. This is something that I started a month or two ago, and it is coinciding with phase one, which is still reading and preparing my educational philosophy and making sure it's rock solid so that I can implement my philosophy in practical ways. The next phase is essentially a brain dump of information into a notebook, sort of a wish list of all the curriculums that I could possibly imagine, and then narrowing those down, whittling those down into something that's doable and feasible. And part of that step is actually purchasing some of these books and materials to see how long they are, to pace them out. And because of that, I will have a haul of the supplies and the resources that I've purchased so far at the end of this video. So if you haven't watched phase one, stage one of my planning that I posted a week or so ago, then go back and watch that, because that is the most important part of planning for your own curriculum or for a other curriculum that you're using. We all need a rock solid educational philosophy, and we need to know what the goal of us educating our children is so that we can make informed curriculum and resource decisions. With my philosophy in mind, the next phase was to grab a notebook and just make a wish list of any resource or curriculum that I had been hoping to use. So I just have a regular notebook here, and the first place that I wanted to start, based on a couple of different recommendations, is history. So I essentially chose a history time period to focus on. I think the well-trained mind is the best resource for planning out your history stream for years to come. I think they have the best framework, and in my opinion, they have really good thoughts on how to break up the historical time periods. So I would definitely point you to that resource. That's how I decided on this time period. We are going to be studying ancient history, 5000 BC to AD 400. And that is the first, obviously that is the first stream of history that we have. So it is ancient history. So first, what I did for most subjects is to write out on the top my spine. What I mean by spine is, if you think of the human body, the spine is sort of what is anchoring all of the other bones and other organs in your body. So it is what is aligning everything. So after philosophy, you can pick a spine based on your philosophy. So I chose a history spine, and I also put a couple of different resources that I'd like to add with the spine. And then on every page, I have a spine category and a living books category. And this was the really fun part that I feel like I was missing with the alveary or with the CMEC. Of course, I didn't register for the alveary, so I don't know exactly what I'm missing, but it was one of my hesitations of joining the alveary, is because it is fun to pick out books to read with your kids. At least it is fun for me. So I was eager to pick out all the living books that I wanted. And this is a big reason why I didn't go with simply Charlotte Mason for history, is because I just want to be the one that is picking out what I think my children will like and what will challenge us as a family and what we'd like to read about. So once you decide on your history spine and your time period, of course, then I just went to all of the resources that I mentioned in my previous video, the Well-Trained Mind and their online resource catalog, as well as all these other Charlotte Mason curriculums and classical curriculums, all of their recommendations. So a big one that I referenced is Hillsdale College has recommendations for K-12 homeschool resources. And I also pulled a lot from Simply Charlotte Mason, from what I knew of the alveary, what I had seen from the CMEC this year, and a couple of other obscure Charlotte Mason sites that I haven't heard of before. So I will really try my best to put those down in the description box. And another huge one, I can't believe I didn't list this first, is of course Ambleside Online. I went through and wrote any living book that looked interesting, intriguing, that we haven't read yet, or that looked like it might be challenging, because I don't just want to base our curriculum on what we're interested in, but what is actually necessary for us to learn about and engage with. So out of all those sites, I pulled and I just wrote down what looked good. And then as I was doing this, I could sort of see that something was coming together, that through ancient history, there's the ancient world, and then we sort of have Greek and Roman history. And so how I can kind of split it up between 3 terms, it was sort of making itself clear. And I found that I had 3 different narratives for children living in those time periods, 3 stories about 3 different children living in each of those 3 different time periods. So it is shaping to be that I will have a narrative for a child of that history for each term. As I was writing these, I found that it would be helpful to write down where I sourced this material, what website I pulled this from, so that I can go back and reference it if I have questions about it, or if I just need to find that exact resource, because of course I can't link anything on a notebook. So I would write just an abbreviation, simply Charlotte Mason, or the Well-Trained Mind, or Hillsdale College, or AO, or whatever it was. So this could be another good phase to price things out and to write next to the resources, whether you can get them on Amazon or Thriftbooks or Rainbow Resource or from the library. So on the first page, I have History Spine and the living history books that I'd like to tackle. I also have an American history stream because the majority of our history will be for the ancient history time period, but I am going to have 1 time slot per week on American history. We just spent nearly 3 years doing American history, from my son's kindergarten year to wrapping it up this final year, and we really enjoyed it. And I think we will revisit some of those Delaire's biographies and also just tie in some more American history because we really enjoy reading about American history, so we'd like to sprinkle that in a bit. And to go along with history, I also put in our Bible plan for this year. Because we are doing ancient history, it seemed to make sense to start with Genesis and Exodus. My children have also been asking to read more of Exodus, and so we will go back and hit Genesis and Exodus. And I haven't looked into this too much other than purchasing a couple of commentaries. However, I would like to find the Ambleside online plans for Genesis and Exodus and see how they've paced it out. To go along with Bible, I also made a section for any other theological morning reading that we would like to do at breakfast. I usually read the Bible to them at breakfast, or my husband reads to them. And so next year I will be covering the Old Testament. My husband has graciously said yes to teaching the New Testament to them. So I'm going to give him a little crash course on how to lead a Charlotte Mason lesson in Bible teaching, and he will do a great job, I'm sure. And then we also have some theological readings that we would like to do, such as Pilgrim's Progress and Parables from Nature and things like that. The next page that I made was Tales and Literature. So this is a really broad category that really just encompasses any literature that I wanted to get to in this year that didn't exactly fall in history or science or something like that. So tales, literature, humanities, things like that. On here I have things like Tales from Shakespeare, deciding between the Lamb version or the Nesbit version, Children of the New Forest, The Little Duke, Wind in the Willows, Robin Hood, Understood Betsy, Betsy and Tacy, Viking Tales, Norse Myths, American Tall Tales, Delaire's Book of Greek Myths, Arabian Nights, Princess and the Goblin, Peter Pan, Black Beauty, The Jungle Book, things like that. So I also made a summer section because as I was listing this, it is so hard to say no to books, especially classic good books. So I added a summer section for some evening readings, some bedtime readings, and also I hope to keep up some semblance of readings in the afternoon with tea with the kids. And this one was very hard to narrow down. But as I was coming across it, and if it were recommended by several different sites, then I would be sure to put a star by it or mark it so that I knew that many places were recommending it. So it is probably important for us to get to it this year. So then I just had to narrow down, what do I actually think we can fit into our year next year? I'm thinking of planning about 4 read-alouds, and some of them will be more challenging or longer. So my goal is probably going to be 3 or 4. And we also will have an afternoon tea time slot where I can plug in another reading there. The next page is biographies. I took a lot of biographies from Ambleside Online. And Charlotte Mason really valued biographies, so this was something that I wanted to be sure to include. And last year, the way that I did geography was I chose a Christian Heroes Then and Now book to read, and it was on Nate Saint. and his life in Ecuador, and I paired that with a book Pilipinto, and that was about Valerie Elliott, so that would be Jim Elliott's daughter, how she grew up as a missionary in Ecuador. So I plan to take a similar structure to geography, to world geography for next year. So since we are dealing with ancient history and sort of the African Egyptian region, I wanted to find a missionary that would fit in that landscape a little bit, in that geographical area. And so I looked through some African Christian heroes options, and I also added in a lot of the Ambleside online biographies that we haven't gotten to yet. And those look like easier reads. They're just more of longer picture books. So I think that we'll get to those no problem. For science, I did the same process, the same brain dump of books in the notebook. The next category is memory work. This is kind of a newer category for me. We've always memorized scripture and catechisms and things like that. But this year, I'd like to incorporate a lot more memory work. I'd like to do sort of a morning recitation, and I want to, like I said, do the 50 States song that I learned in elementary school. I'd like my children to memorize maybe the continents or the books of the Bible or the Apostles' Creed or some songs about math facts. And I'm also very interested in the Memoria Press recitation guides. If you've used those, please comment down below what your experience is. They're so affordable that I think I'll probably pick them up anyways, just to see some of the ideas of things that we could be memorizing and reciting. And then I also have a category for morning memory work, like Bible memory work, such as the Apostles' Creed, books of the Bible, a hymn, scripture memory, catechism, things like that. So yeah, these are just basic brainstorms for language arts for all three of my children. And for math, I'm still undecided about a lot of things, but we're getting there. And then for the arts, I have piano, handicraft, singing, drawing, and art instruction, hymn, classical music, artist study, picture study. We are considering and potentially getting involved in a classical Charlotte Mason co-op for next year. So I am going to hold off on purchasing any of these resources until I'm sure that we will either be involved in that co-op or not involved. So I'm going to wait on those. So once I had my full brain dump in a notebook and looked it over, I could start kind of whittling down things that might not be realistic to include. And I started laying out my term 1, term 2, term 3, and sort of distributing resources to each of those terms. For me, it was easier to assess if things will fit if I had divided them into these 3 separate terms, and if I could just see if throughout an entire week, can we get to all of these things, or where am I kind of dreaming, or where am I stretching us beyond our limits? Now I'm just in the phase of trying to make sure that everything will fit within a day and make sure that we can have a variety of subjects and touch on all the things that I think that we should be working on, and then also having those rigorous skill subjects that I have to get to individually with the kids. So a big part of making sure that these things will fit was actually ordering a lot of these things. So once I whittled down what I think we could actually get to, it was really helpful to go ahead and order the books that I was certain about so that I could see them and see how many chapters they have and see how dense and difficult the writing is or isn't. Is it feasible to read a chapter of this and be able to narrate or notebook in 20 minutes? Or does this look like a book where I'm going to need to break up the chapters over the course of 2 weeks? So the next phase brought on a little bit of a haul, and I will share that with you because it is fun looking at other people's hauls. So now we will go into the haul portion of the video. So the main places that I bought resources from first were Thriftbooks, Rainbow Resources, and Amazon. So I will show you a couple of items from each of those places, and I will show you all of them in the upcoming sort of curriculum reveal, I guess, when I tell you everything that we'll be doing for next year as I'm planning it right now. So up first, let's do Thriftbooks. That is my favorite place to check. I am a very loyal member of Thriftbooks, and I actually got maybe 5 or 6 free books after placing this order, so that was really fun. So up first, I will start with some tales in literature. I got The Odyssey, retold by Geraldine McCrahen. I don't know. The Well-Trained Mind is sort of big on doing abridged versions in the early years, and after reading their explanation of it, I am going to try it this year, and we'll see if it helps our understanding once we actually get to the Odyssey. And either way, it's going to be a good story. So I think that it will just help my children, but I'm hoping that in the long run, it does not hurt their desire to read the actual Odyssey. Knowing them, I think that it is going to be a good choice. I think they're going to enjoy this, and they will enjoy encountering the full story later. To go with that idea, I got Black Ships Before Troy, which is the story of the Iliad. I also got the children's Shakespeare. I'm going to read through the Nesbit version this summer and see if I like this, or I'm going to compare it with the Lamb version. But I think this one, the recommendations just sort of ink the other one out a little bit. So we're going to try this one first. I'm not sure if we might end up reading this one this summer. I was just listening to a book about this book, and it is Vegan Gorian's Tending the Heart of Virtue, and he talks about the Princess and the Goblin. So I'm not sure if I will be able to wait until next school year to read this one, or we might read this one this summer. The same goes for Nesbit's The Railway Children. I might just have to read this one this summer. I'm not sure it will make the cut for our term novels for next year, so I think I might just read this one this summer with the kids. Up next are some science books that I got from Thriftbooks on constellations. I'm pretty sure this one glows in the dark. Exploring the Night Sky, Footprints on the Moon, and What's So Special About Planet Earth. So these were all recommended by the Well-Trained Mind, I believe. Either that or simply Charlotte Mason's list of living books. I also picked up the Nancy Gantz Genesis, a commentary for children, the Herein is Love. And so I believe this is to be read along with the readings, and she has the readings paced out. So that might be a tremendous resource. I kind of forgot that she had these paced out. So I think that will be really helpful for us. I have this one and the Exodus one, only I cannot find the Exodus one right now. And then these were on some Charlotte Mason site. It's a newer site. I'm going to not remember what it was, but she recommended these for early readers. The Secret of the Hidden Scrolls and oh, I guess they're both The Secret of the Hidden Scrolls. But book 1 is The Beginning, and book 3 is The Great Escape by M.J. Thomas. I have not heard much about these, but these are on Hoopla, and so I might give them a listen before giving them to my son. But they're recommended for ages 6 through 9, grades 1 through 3. So it's about siblings and their dog hunting for the ancient scrolls, and it transports them back to Bible history, moments in Bible history. So it sounds like the Magic Tree House, but just kind of the Bible version of that. And my son loves the Magic Tree House, so I think he will like these. He already had his eye on them, and so I might let him read these this summer. These will not be part of our school day lessons, but these would be more of an afternoon leisure time reading for him. This was recommended by Simply Charlotte Mason. This is the true story of Noah's Ark. And this is a thicker picture book, but it has some really cool illustrations about life on the Ark and the building of the Ark and things like that. This is a book by Simonetta Carr on Augustine of Hippo. And I got this on Thriftbooks. And this one is a biography about Augustine, St. Augustine. So I think this will be one of our morning theological reads. We might do a page or two of this once a week or twice a week or something like that. This is one of those books that it's really helpful to see in person, because knowing that it's a picture book, I might think that we could get through it in a week or two, but this is a longer picture book. And yes, of course we could get through it in a week or two, but it has 7 chapters. So this would take us maybe through one term. And I just wouldn't have known that unless I got it and was able to look at it. So this was a really important part of planning our year. A couple others like that were Michelangelo by Diane Stanley and Cleopatra by Diane Stanley. Both of these are thicker picture books, so I think I will read through them in order to be able to pace them out, because these are not just average picture books. These will take us, if we're only doing a 20-minute slot, these will take us a little bit longer than just 1 week. Also a biography of William Shakespeare. Up next, I did place a Well-Trained Mind order that I had forgot to mention in the beginning. So I love the first language lessons, and I got level 2 for next year. This one is a lot thicker, but it's the same format that we love, the same simple, easy, quick lessons that we love. We are still working our way through book 1 with my oldest, and I think that's something that I'm going to make him finish up this summer so that we can start fresh with level 2 next year. We also got a lot of these audiobooks. We are a big audiobook family, and so we have Courage and a Clear Mind, the True Adventures of the Ancient Greeks, to go along with when we're studying the Greeks. We have one on Egyptian treasures. We have one on Julius Caesar and the Story of Rome. And then we have one on American Tall Tales. Kids each have CD players in their rooms, and they love listening to audiobooks, or we also have a CD player in our vehicle. So these will be a really nice complement to each of these phases of history that we are studying. Next, just a couple of things from Amazon. I got American Tall Tales by Adrian Stoutenberg. Harp and Laurel Wreath. This is poetry and dictation for the classical curriculum by Laura M. Berquist. I have only briefly looked through this, but this has different stages. This has the early years, the grammar stage, the dialectical stage, and the rhetorical stage, and it has poems broken up for each section. So I think this is where I will be pulling our recitation from. I'd never heard of this book, but this looks like a beautiful collection of recitation options. This one was recommended by Simply Charlotte Mason. This is part of their ancient history curriculum pack, and this is something that I wanted to read with my kids since I first saw that history curriculum. And for some reason, this was the one that really drew me to the Simply Charlotte Mason History, Bible, Geography curriculum. But making my own, I just decided to purchase this one on its own. So this will be our term 1 narrative story about a child living in that time. And one more Amazon book is Church History by Simonetta Carr. This is the same author who did this Augustine book, Augustine of Hippo. So this one looks like it's going to be really helpful for me even, but this will be a good reference book for different time periods that we will be studying in church history. So this one will probably land in our morning theology reads. I think I either got this on Amazon or Rainbow Resource, but this is Trial and Triumph. This will be part of our morning theological reads. Rainbow Resource, I have Our Little Spartan Cousin of Long Ago and Our Little Athenian Cousin of Long Ago. So these will go, this will be term 1 and then terms 2 and 3. And these will be our narratives to go along with our historical time period. Prima Latina. I have looked through it and it actually looks fun, and if it doesn't work out for my son, I might start it on my own just so that I have a little bit more of a foundation before trying to teach him. I also have the Book of Astronomy Teacher and Student Guide, and we are going to be doing a lot of stargazing this summer to set us up for a year studying astronomy. So I thought these books would be helpful for me. My son might not use this book, or he may. It was very affordable, so I just decided to get it. At least he can maybe copy some of the constellations from here. So there you have it. That's my next stage of planning my own Charlotte Mason classical curriculum. Leave a comment below saying when you are finishing up your school year and how planning for next year is going for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.